Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 17th of April. Well, the age-old adage of don't fight the Fed is still true and hasn't changed. So you can see as we hit each of these little key support areas, every time there's a return back to the level, miraculously you find a plethora of buyers and boom. This particular case, they're claiming that it's the news of a potential therapy that will work, but clearly we know that the economy is still stopped. And despite the comments about bringing it forward, you're looking at levels here now that economy is operating at, full tilt. So, but that just points out when the Federal Reserve can throw unlimited amounts of money, and when they agree to get into the market back over here, boom, this is what you have. So this is buying the rumor in this particular case that things will return to normal overnight. Once we get past this point, though, then we're just going to have the 3,000, which, we've got the 61%. Put the numbers 29, 23, 76 is all the way back up to 3,100, and then you're looking at the highs all the way back up here, which some people say that's just not possible given what. Of course it is, and again, this is where we talked about the devaluation, multiplier effect, that kind of situation. You could be in a depression and still have a 3,000 S&P. And people say, well, earnings per share and stuff. Well, it's not really relevant if you're expecting a devaluation of the dollar. There would be parity there. Not to mention the fact that you've got some very interesting things. We have the deceleration in energy costs. You also have the reduction in cash. So where hyperinflation tends to occur is when you have lots of cash floating around. That's not the case with the pandemic. So there's some really unique scenarios within this, but it doesn't change what we see from the readings, continued rise and shakeout. It's all right there for us, and again, right back at the key threshold. So this becomes again critical. Central banks, can they hold it? It's really problematic because the EU is like an endless well, and even providing dollar liquidity from the Treasury at some point, it still gets difficult to justify where Europe is going. The conditions in France and other places don't seem to be any better than they were. Italy and that is still stalled. And they're still reporting large number of cases, and yet your death rate is declining. And of course, everyone's been locked in their home for 2 months now, and miraculously, you're still getting these large number of cases. So, what's really the point of having everyone locked up? But let's not let logic get in the way of a good pandemic. That's that for the euro and oil. Gosh, I saw that there was some areas wholesale right 11 cents a gallon for gas in some Midwest areas. So that's just crazy talk. And so without just a handout to oil, but then again, you're handing it out to everybody else. So what's the difference? And I understand that it's trying to buy time to begin to reopen certain sectors. But again, that becomes problematic because you become uneven demand and then you have misallocations. That's problematic, to try and do it piecemeal. So we'll see where they go with that. And of course, this is going to have to send gold higher because all it is just pure liquidity. So here I have the Power Mode 2 dotted line set up on. But you can see from the buy setup that took place with cyan under red, which is always a buy, corresponded with the pivot and everything too. But it never changed. It was in a buy from back over here. Likewise, where it did also, again, cyan dipping. That's the little cyan candle there. And never crossed back above for a complete short, even within the magenta one. You had the dip, but that's where I look for that crossover for a completion, and expect, of course, dip into negative shakeout because you had just come off the rising gold. But as gold was fading, you had Azure rising, and that sort of negates until the two of those meet. And when they met, it represented a brand new pivot up. And boom, that just went through. So yes, all that's positive extreme. At some point, yes, we will come back to it. Maybe this is one of those buy the rumor, sell the news. So I know Gillette came out pretty quick and said, "Well, this is just preliminary," blah blah blah, and not to get too hyped. So they've covered themselves as far as that goes. But the market's looking for any reason to have good news. But we had this is where if I tighten it in here, you can see it's just beautiful ranges, up, down, and this makes for lovely configuration back and forth. So I don't think you can complain about the kind of day trading ranges that we're seeing, because these are significant point movers. When I go into that big gap, let's just get rid of that big gap because you can see what we're talking about. I mean, just shy of the 28 here at 97, and then you're dipping all the way back to 60. So these are 25, 30 point moves, and we're capturing most of them within the clean DOC spreads, along with the power mode 2s and even shakeout dips, and of course move below the red line. This one had your full reset by the time steel crossed over cyan. At this particular point, we're still in weakness because you didn't have any orange support. It was still caught between red and cyan, and stayed that way until right over here. And so you can see that when it's caught between there, lifted out just a little bit there, and then boom, dipped below it right here. You'd already had red and green over the white. It's just a matter of waiting for the trigger. Boom, comes in and off to the races. And so classic ABC, A, B, and then C, back up again, and repeat, boom, keep doing it again. So it's all good stuff. Nothing to complain about. Keep it simple. Let me see if that was enough of a move for the daily ATR to hit its profit. Yes, it was. I thought it might be. So that one, the first one started at 26 and then went to 27. This one went from 27.30 to 28.70. So, yeah, that's how that's done. Leave it at that. As always, look for me on the Skype chat net. Trade well. We'll talk again later.